In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Endless Observer Notebook. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a paper test, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this notebook coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. So, if you notice, this shot looks a little bit different. I got tired of the white background, and I know it may have been on the boring side, or as boring as it gets. So I've moved my camera, for which is normally pointing this way, to be pointing this way. It is a little bit weird because obviously the window is going to change the way that the lighting looks, and it's dynamic because the sun is moving and there are clouds and all that other stuff. So I'm going to try this. You guys tell me if this is annoying. So this is the Endless Observer Notebook. This is the second notebook from Endless that I've had. The first was the Recorder, which I did a review of a while ago. I'll put a link to that up in the corner. That used Tomoe River. This uses a paper called Regalia Paper, and so we'll be going through that. Let's walk through the notebook. So first of all, you get this really nice printed slipcover. We have sort of this brown or metallic beige color. Well, I shouldn't say metallic, but it's glossy. Cityscape here. We have Endless. Observer in gold foil here for all the minute details of life. Hardcover notebook, lace flat, ink loving, Regalia paper. And this is the dotted version. They do lined and plain also. Now the slipcover, you'll notice, doesn't go all the way to the edge, which is fine. They printed on every single side of this. So we have made by endless.com. Then we have all gold foil printing along the side here, and then, you know, the symbols here for, I don't know, fountain pen loving paper, ink loving paper, something like that. And then on the back we can talk about the specs here. So they say that the Regalia paper gives smooth writing, drawing experience. It's bound in one of the sturdiest shells. It's a very thick board cover, similar to the Yoseka stationery notebook that was made by Conifer. I'll put a link to that also up in the corner. In terms of features, we have the iconic Regalia paper. It's already iconic, and this is my first time trying it, but all right, it's iconic. 80 GSM acid-free, dotted page layout, table of contents, 187 numbered pages, page marker, 8.2 by 5.8, basically A5 size, and lace flat from day one. Ink, loves ink, zero bleeding, acid-free smooth paper, hardcover, lace flat. And it's designed in Madras, made in India. Okay, let's take the cover off. Now, when I first got this, it was really hard to get that slip cover off. I think that's where this damage may have happened here on the board cover here. I'm not sure, but it was really hard to get it out when I first got this. So that was kind of annoying. But walking through here, we have these thick craft color board covers. They're really very, very thick. On the back we have debossed Endless logo here. Very minimalistic looking notebook, which of course I like that. Now on the spine here, again going back to that Yoseka stationery notebook, it's very similar to that. However, we have this piece of fabric here, and it's not applied, I want to say the best. There's some kind of creases and folds in here, and it's not, you know, it's a little bit dirty. You know, one of the criticisms I had of the other Endless, the Reporter, was that, you know, some of the pages were dirty or badly printed. I don't know, there is some quality control things that might be worth considering. However, the price of this notebook is very affordable. It's like $18. So, you know, it's a little bit hard to complain about that, but it's just something that I notice. Now, opening the notebook, we have a paste down here with the Endless logo and a place for your name. Now we do get 16-page signatures, 192 pages. Some of them are taken up by this table of contents here. I do like that they give you that. And we have a blank page, and then we're right into page 1 here. Now we have a ribbon bookmark in this beigey color, which does kind of match the cover. And then in terms of the dot grid, we have a 5mm, let's see if I can put this a little bit closer here. We have a 5mm dot grid. It's a darker dot grid than I typically like, but not bad. It's not crazy dark. And then we definitely have a pretty noticeable margin on the end there. Now, one thing I would say is if you're someone that likes to do like a title or put the date right up at the top, it is a little bit tight up here. Again, not a big deal. Just use the first set of the grid, but normally I like to see maybe a little bit more space up here than at the bottom, but I realize, we have the paginated pages, so, it's a trade-off, not a big deal, but I typically like a little bit more breathing room up top. Now going to the back, you'll notice here the way that this bookmark was attached, they just glue it to the end. And I understand the reason to do that. I mean, I probably, you could have put it into paste down potentially, but you could see there was glue where when it was closed, it got to the other side of the page over here and stuck. So when I opened it, it kind of ripped a little bit. And from a functional perspective, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Talk about the spine of this. So 16-page signature, which we didn't get, I don't believe, in the Endless Recorder notebook. I believe those had 32-page signatures. This, we definitely got those, and they say it lays flat from day one, and it does. There is, pretty much any notebook has a little bit of a break-in, and I definitely noticed, in the beginning that there was some tightness, but it lays very flat. I'm pretty happy with the quality of the binding here. One other thing here that I did want to just briefly mention is the way that this is printed. This is what appears to be to me a digital print because it has a very pixelated look, even the dot grid. And I don't know if this is going to show up or not, and this is a really kind of crazy thing to be talking about, but I notice it. It's not a big deal. Basically, the digital print is much cheaper than an offset print because you don't have to make plates, but the dot grid and the numbers look a little pixelated. Now I'm going to compare it to, this is a Leuchtturm notebook. Notice the Leuchtturm doesn't have as much of a pixelated look to the dots or the numbers. And that's because I believe, and I could be wrong, but this looks like an offset printing to me, and Leuchtturm would certainly have the volume to make that happen. For the Papermind notebooks, all of them use offset printing. It's just a higher quality print. This is our blocker notebook, and it's just cleaner, but again, more expensive. And of course, I understand why Endless wouldn't do that because at least to my understanding, you would need a plate for every single one of these pages. That would be really expensive unless you're doing it in high volume like Leuchtturm does. So just pointing that out. The paper test. Now, this paper is really interesting. The face of this looks all really, really nice. There's no bleeding except for in this one point here where the P comes back around. And you will see unfortunately, there's some smudging here. Yes, this is an extremely slow to dry paper. I would definitely want to use a blotter sheet or a rolling. That's what I do when I've been using this the last month or so. But as you can see though, we do get some pretty nice sheen. So again, very good for ink. Now, here's the problem with this paper that I have. The surface is really easy to damage. So some fountain pens will work with this and some won't. Now the Pilot Parallel 6mm, we did see a decent amount of spotting. Same with the 1.0mm. And then the Lamy 2000 double broad. This is a very wet nib. We see one spot maybe. The Platinum 3776 course, we can see it just maybe barely trying to come through in a couple of spots. But, I would consider both of these pens for sure a pass. Same with the Lamy 1.9mm stub nib. We do see a spot come through here. The Montegrappa Italic. This is a very sharp italic nib, and there's maybe one or two little spots where it's trying to come through. I would consider that a pass. The Lamy Vista left-hand nib, which is like a smoothish medium. No issues there that I can see. The Lamy Studio Extra Fine. I threw this one in here because the Sailor 1911 Riallo Fine failed, basically. That nib has too much feedback. For this paper, it just destroys the finish and then bleeds right through. Now, all of the other pens did really, really well, the non-fountain pens. So the Octo Foodie Ball 1.5 millimeter, the Pilot High-Tech Point V10 1.0 millimeter. This one is probably one of the most difficult, what I would say, normal pens that I typically test. And we really, I mean, maybe there's one or two spots where it's just trying to come through slightly, but this is really good performance there. The gel pens, felt tip pens, no problem. Now, let's go to the troublemakers here. Again, face of this looks great, except for, I didn't let it dry, I guess, quick enough. Um, Zero bleed on the Sharpie, zero bleed on the Stettler Permanent Lumo Color, zero bleed on the Pilot Oil Drawing Pen, and we did get this spot here, but really the rest of the Copic looks great. So, this is an interesting result. Basically, if you use really smooth nibs, this is pretty fountain pen friendly, and the ink looks really nice on it. All the other types of pens work great on this. Now, compared to other coated papers, Cosmo Airlight, Tora Next, Graphilo paper, this has, I think, the most line spread. Now, if we compare it to, I cut a sheet out from a Papermind Cosmo Airlight hardcover notebook. This is the 83 GSM version here. If we look, we can notice that Regalia paper looks fatter. So the Lamy 1.9 to 1.9, the coarse to the coarse. Sailor Rialo here, it just looks fatter. And then the Lamy Studio Extra Fine, again, looks significantly fatter. Whether that's a good thing or not, that's, up to you. This is Cosmo Airlight, and this has some line spread. I would say it's actually pretty minimal, but compared to this, I think this probably has the most line spread of any coated paper that I've tested. So that's interesting. You will notice that this Regalia paper is definitely very bright white. It is whiter than the Cosmo Airlight paper. So what do we think overall? Calling this fountain pen friendly is interesting. I mean, obviously the Sailor didn't work where it works totally fine on Cosmo Airlight. I think most fountain pens are going to work with this unless they have a lot of feedback. And you can probably, if you're really careful not to dig in the nibs, you can probably get these Pilot parallel pens to work, I would think. There's so many good fountain pen friendly papers out there. I'm just not sure that I would come back to this because you really do have to be careful with it. So what are my pros and cons for the Endless Observer notebook? Biggest pro is the price. You're getting a lot of notebook for $18. So like most Endless products, this is very nicely priced. I like that you have a very cool looking slipcase. Not really a reason to buy a notebook, but it's nice nonetheless. It does lay flat. It takes a little bit to get it to go flat, but it's fair to say that this is a proper lay flat notebook. I like the Regalia paper. It's pretty luxurious to write on. There is that line spread, which, is a pro and con for some people, but it'll make a scratchier pen smoother, and those, when you start using a double broad or something really wet, it's even more luxurious feeling than it normally would be. Now, I also like that we have paginated pages. We have a nice 5mm dot grid, table of contents. We get those good Lloydstrom features. We have a paperclip, a nice debossed logo on the back. Looks very good, very minimalistic, nothing, just minimal branding, which is what I really like. Now, in terms of cons, the Regalia paper, it does bleed. It does have some feathering. It is easy to damage sort of the coated surface of the paper such that you get some feathering. For the most part, my fountain pens look really good on this. The Pilot parallel type pens can't damage that surface. Now, the other thing is, I know I talked about line spread. This has more line spread than I think any other paper really that I've tested. If that's something that bothers you, you're probably not going to like this. The other thing that I don't necessarily love is the printing. Now it's obviously a digital print versus an offset print like I use on my Papermind notebooks and Lloydstrom uses on their notebooks. So you just get that more digital pixely look when you look at like the numbers and even the dots on the dot grid, unfortunately. Again, this is a small gripe. Most people probably won't even notice that, but I do see that it's sort of like pixelated looking. That's pretty much it. Do you guys have this notebook? Do you like this notebook? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.